It's wild shit, and it's all because of our policies.
And it's interesting that we got the guy in the White House who was the champion of it for those entire 50 years. I mean, maybe he wasn't in the whole 50 years, but he was in for like 40 plus of them.
Yeah.
And he was the great champion of it. And it's so funny that now he runs on like diversity. Yeah, but I hired the first, vice president who's black or whatever, It's like, yeah, sure. I threw, hundreds of thousands of them in cages, but now look at me. I got one right next to me.
Yeah.
And yes, she's an idiot, but okay.
But
I
it's
hired
so
her.
funny how Dylan Mulvaney is like the person they all go to, whether it's Bud Light or the president. Like, even the president was getting interviewed by Dylan Mulvaney, which is like, what do you do? Why? Like, what is the, like, and she's talking about day 300 of womanhood, and Biden's like, bless your heart.
Like, it's so fun. Did you hear the thing where Joe Biden lied and said he was for gay marriage since like the 70s or something like that or whatever
he lies
it was?
all the time.
So he's just making stuff up, but it was so funny because because he's just so old, and when old people try to say the politically correct thing, and no matter how they say it, it still comes out like old and wrong. It's just like they're just like, colored people could read just as good as me and you, and you're like, oh, dude, that's the most racist thing to say. So he goes. He's telling the story of when he was a kid and his dad, and he saw two gay people kiss, and then he goes, and then one of them walked into the bank. Like, they had a job just like you or me. Like you're like, yeah, dude, they're people. Like, what do you, this was a revelation to you? Like, it still just sounds so fucked up, but he's trying to be cool.
And what was the thing that he said something about, just like white kids can? He was talking about poor people?
He said, poor kids are just as bright as white kids. And you're like, oh my God. Jesus, the Freudian slips. Like, it's like but it's just also like, in the same way that if any of us had like, our 85-year-old grandpa at the table, every now and then if they say some things, you're going to roll your eyes. You're almost like, yeah, you can't expect him to be with the times on this. You're like, just stop making Biden talk about this stuff. He's not with but the fact that he has to not only do that, but has to be with the latest woke insanity. Yeah. Like that this guy, like that any man in their 80s has got to be like, oh yeah, Dylan Mulvaney, totally. That's a beautiful woman right there. That's what I'm looking at. Beautiful woman. But he's got to like actually do that is just hilarious.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's really interesting, the mental gymnastics that people will put themselves through.
It's really something.
Just the idea that they're not stopping him from running again.